Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, and gentlemanly ladies, on this week's On the Rocks, we chat with actors, writers, directors, producers Droege and Tom DeTrinis about digital theater and comedy in 2021, just in time, with my guest co-host, actor Michael Vega, and me, your favorite host with the sassy most. Raise a glass and let the drinks begin.
Thank you for being
Boulevard.
Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Lord have mercy, buns and bows and pantyhose, On the Rocks podcast, a place where we're too glam to give a damn. It's only the first week of January, and I've already cheated on my New Year's resolution. Why should my resolution last any longer than my last relationship? Blah, blah. I saw the gayest thing. Like, you know, we're enjoying a lot of LGBTQ representation, but life is getting pretty gay. This gay couple proposed to each other at their vaccination for COVID. And they turned it into a proposal. So not only are they rubbing it in that they have a relationship, good for you, but they're also getting the vaccine early. Come on. Like us on Twitter and Instagram at On The Rocks On Air. Send me an email. Book me for a wedding, funeral, quinceañera, bris. I don't care. I will be there. Info at OnTheRocksRadioshow.com. Send us your questions, comments, and nudes. Our presenting sponsors are JustFor.Fans, the newest small business to hit the nation. FanDaddies.com. JustFor.Fans is the adult-winning award site connecting all-inclusive array of content creators and their fans in a totally safe, COVID-friendly way. And, you know, we're all a little lonely during lockdown, so set up your free profile today at JustFor.Fans and FanDaddies.com. Okay, right. High fives and good vibes. It's your go-to site for the hottest accessory for 2021. Go to FanDaddies.com and get the fan that best suits your image. Kurt, do you have a pun for us? You're so punny.
Yes, I do.
All right, lay it on me.
Did you hear about the Chinese cook who was badly burned?
He couldn't walk that way again?
Yeah, he couldn't walk again.
But why would getting burned affect how he can walk?
Yeah.
Okay. When I get burned, I sashay. Get it? Okay. The show's presented by Straw Hat Media. You can watch and or listen to our over 230 episodes at OnTheRocksRadioshow.com. Hello to our listeners around the nation on every major podcast platform and on the Facebook pages of GED Magazine, I Love Gay LGBT, Gay Desert Guide, and of course, our very own On The Rocks Radio Show Facebook page, which you should follow and like. We are now streaming on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on Out@.tv app for free. Share, subscribe, leave a comment, leave your phone number. We're single. Okay, let me introduce my guest co-host for this evening, my wicked stepsister, Mr. Michael Vega. His entertainment background includes numerous theater credits as an actor and producer, film, TV, radio host, and writer. Raised a city boy on the East Coast, he's happily called California home for nearly 20 years. He also has experience in the LGBT nightlife scene and additionally serves as our On The Rocks associate producer. Please welcome Michael Vega.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to be here. How are you?
So I'm doing fabulous. So what I love about having you on the show and us being friends is I can text you at any time of day and you're like, okay, what now, sister?
Literally any time of day.
Because you are the consummate content watcher. You watch blockbusters, you watch independent films, web series, everything. So, and you know,
What else am I going to do?
Well, that's exactly right. But even before, I mean, you got all the screeners.
Well, yeah,
but
of course.
You have such a knowledge of like so many different areas of watching. And, you know, we both have a theater background. And so, like, I love talking with you because you can be a little sassy and a little bitchy like me.
Just a little bit.
But you offer, like, constructive criticism, whereas I don't. I'm just like, hated it. But
well,
you're like,
you know, try not to be mean about it.
Okay, but that's before the bottle of wine. But
Cheers.
How has your viewing choices changed during COVID? Like, you know, we joke that we are home all the time. Have you noticed, like you're like, I'm just not in the mood for this anymore?
Absolutely.
Okay, so how have your viewing pleasures changed?
I mean, in the beginning,
Pornhub.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot. It's been a lot of that. In the beginning, especially, I couldn't. something more heavy and dramatic and emotionally charged is tough.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're living alone and you know you spent an entire day not really speaking to anyone or connecting with anyone. So you know, I'm not going to watch Sophie's Choice or something like that where. You know, I have to keep it light. I tell you, I have rewatched because I'm a big geek. I'm a big comic geek, and I've rewatched every Marvel film, you know, 100 times.
God.
And I know I can't help it,
Oh,
but it's
God.
light and I need comedy. I need positivity.
Marvel movies are funny in the way that they make so much movie while being so bad.
Oh.
But I hear
How
what you're
dare
saying.
you.
Like 1917 is free now on HBO to watch, and I never caught it in the theaters and, you know, nominated. I'm like, it's too much. But I am going back and rewatching heavy films from the past I never saw, such as like The Godfather or Kramer versus Kramer, like some of these, because like I guess enough time has gone by that I'm like, okay, that's in the past.
Those I could do. You know, last night I was watching. I don't know if you remember a film called Jeffrey.
How old do you think I am, girl? But this came out when I wasn't even out yet. I think I was still in high school. It's like one of the original LGBT films.
Yeah.
Steven Weber, was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
he was
yeah,
in
yeah.
Wings, I think,
Yes,
was the show he was in at
and
the
he
time.
was in the Misery, no, not Misery, the Shining miniseries on TV. Yeah.
As Sir Patrick Stewart.
Yes, that's right.
Good. I actually went to the premiere of Jeffrey back when.
You've
for
been
some
to many
reason,
premieres.
Someday it'll be my own. And I literally got out of a limo and cut Sir Patrick Stewart off on the red carpet. Not intentionally. It was such I didn't even know. I was overwhelmed with being there. A friend of mine, you know, arranged it all because he was in the press. And so I was nobody. And, you know, he arranged for the limo and we pulled up and I'm getting out and I really even had no idea who he was at the time.
Well, at the time, he's still, you know, we think of Patrick Stewart now, we're like, wow. Even when he started on Star Trek, he didn't quite fit, really. But then when you look back and see exactly like how many things he was in. Excalibur. He was in that old movie Excalibur, but he did a lot of Shakespeare. But he was, before we knew him from Star Trek, he was a big thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't even know he was in the movie. When I got out, I was like, oh, sorry. And then I got in.
Engage.
He was like, fine. And then I get in and I see, I'm like, oh my God, he's in the movie. And what did I do? But it was a surprisingly, I forgot how fun and good and how many cameos of great actors and actresses that are in that movie.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. I don't think I ever really saw it. Like Kevin Kline did that In and Out movie, and that's on now free streaming. So I need to go back and revisit that.
Sigourney Weaver's in it. She has a great cameo. I mean, just a whole a slew of people.
But it's funny when we're looking at LGBT films now, because back then it's like, oh my God, that's so either politically incorrect or the humor is all stereotypical. But that's kind of like where we started. Remember when Will and Grace first started? You couldn't get more stereotypical. And now we're like, it was trailblazing. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, but there was a period of time that it was the stereotype. And, you know, I'm a gay man. Yeah. Gay stereotypes, when done well, are funny.
Yeah. And
I mean, hello. Michael Vega, gay stereotype in the living.
And my point of bringing up Jeffrey, watching that last night, is I thought it was going to be lighthearted. I thought it was going to be. It is lighthearted. It is funny.
But it deals with
a
AIDS,
comedy.
right?
Well, yes, AIDS, and AIDS is not funny.
No.
But there was a song, and I remember until the song came on and this moment happened, I didn't realize it had hit me at the time. So it came on. And I had to shut the movie off. So even something I thought was lighthearted.
Because you become an emotional wreck. It could be a Hallmark commercial. You're like, I can't watch. It's too sad. Okay, real fast. You're going to give us the top 3 movies that we are looking forward to in 2021.
Okay.
Because 2020, you know, Avengers bullshit. What's the subtitle?
How dare you? Endgame.
It should have been Endgame. It made more money than the whole U.S. box office in all of 2020. Now, we know COVID,
As
of
well
course.
it should.
Yeah, Hollywood, make more pieces of crap. Okay, anyway, but what are the top 3 movies that I should be looking forward to in 2021?
Well, the ones I'm, industry's looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to. First off, the next James Bond film, No
Yes.
Time to Die.
Except, how about No Time to Be Made? Because we've been waiting for this. It has so many stops and starts, right?
Well, absolutely, and it'll be out April 2nd, so you won't have to wait too long.
Okay. I bet they're gonna be like April Fools. It's another year longer.
But some great things about it. We have Daniel Craig back, but also a new 007, Lashana Lynch, who's a black woman, which is amazing. And they go sort of head to head. I've seen in trailers. Rami Malek and Christoph Waltz play bad guys.
Rami Malek.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and the script, they had to bring in the woman who wrote Fleabag and starred in Fleabag, and she has like 4 names, and I can't
Phoebe Waller.
We just call her Phoebe because we're such close friends.
Phoebes.
Yeah, but she has like 5 English
Phoebes.
names. Yeah, but she was brought in to kind of jazz up the script
That's
because
great.
they were having problems.
This is a great fact. Is the estimated budget is $250 million, so it makes it one of the most expensive movies ever filmed.
Okay, but here's the thing.
It better be good.
The Bond movies have gotten so expensive and so overblown that they've lost like the heart. When Sean Connery passed away, right? And they played all of his Bond. It used to be just like simple, like we're shaking all snow in the water, and it was like, but it was more about the intrigue and the outfits and more fun. Now it's all like, oh God, so dark and heavy. Like let Bond have some little
The
fun.
audiences need to be razzle dazzled. That's why we got Avengers Endgame. Ha.
Hated it. Okay, what's the next film?
Number 2. Quiet Place Part 2.
Okay.
Shh. They're coming.
It was so quiet. The first one was so quiet, I fell asleep.
So Emily Blunt, obviously, John Krasinski is back as director, and he has an acting credit. So I'm thinking maybe it's a flashback moment.
Well, no, the premise is it's a prequel. So
I don't think so.
No, it's a prequel.
Not
I'm sorry to tell
entirely.
you, it's a prequel.
Are you sure?
Yes, and I'm like, only Hollywood can make a sequel, literally a prequel. It's like, why didn't you start with the goddamn prequel?
I don't. I watched the trailers and I thought this seems like it's going back and forth. We'll see on when is it coming out? April 23rd, and also it's adding Demon Hunsu from Amistad and Cillian Murphy.
Oh my God, he's so good.
Right?
Okay, I'm in.
He's so good.
I hope he plays an alien like before they got all alien-y. He's like, I'm the alien.
Oh, he was great as a scarecrow in The Dark Knight.
Okay, next.
And lastly, a West Side Story remake.
What sound was that?
I don't know, but that's what I felt when
Was
I
that
said
supposed
West
to be
Side
a
Story.
Puerto Rican?
I think. Hey,
we're both Latino. That's a hate crime.
well, I'm Puerto Rican.
Yeah, so you should have gotten it right.
Well,
they don't go. They go.
One of us at this table has had dinner with Rita Moreno at the Cliff House years ago. Thank you. One of us.
Well, one of us rode in an elevator with Rita Moreno to go see Cheetah Rivera in Kiss with the Spider Woman because she's like, I'm going to do the movie.
One of us she spoke to directly.
Yeah, well, she asked me to hold the door for her. Okay, so we're excited about West Side Story.
Absolutely. Directed by Steven Spielberg, screenplay by Tony Kushner.
Done. In it to win it.
She has a cameo. She's playing Valentina. It looks gorgeous.
Well, Rita Moreno plays the old, like the guy who used to own like the liquor store. She plays that character. Yeah. So I'm really excited.
I'm really excited about that.
But they did cut out the whole dance, like how they like dip and snap. They took out that whole dance montage.
Do you want to hear a story she told real quick?
Real fast, because we have to.
Really fast. So she was not a really trained dancer, and so she was scared about the audition, blah blah blah. But then knew the choreographer who taught her, or knew somebody who knew some of the numbers and taught her a couple of the numbers, and it just so happened the 2 numbers that she had to do in the audition were the ones.
Oh. You go, Rita Moreno.
Right?
And I have to say, that's a movie from a musical that I thoroughly enjoy. Like that and Fiddler on the Roof. Pretty good interpretations, other than casting, but okay, let's get this show on the road. I am so excited to talk to these 2 gentlemen. First, we're going to talk to Drew Droege, best known for his online parody videos of Downtown Indie Darling. Of course, we know Clivy. I'm shortening the show. Clivy. Chloe Sevigny, featured in Entertainment Weekly, The Advocate, Time Out, New York, Out Magazine's Out 100, Marc Jacobs' 2016 Spring Campaign, and HBO's Wigstock documentary, Wig. On screen, we have seen him him on Paramount Network's Heathers, Bob's Burgers, Drunk History, Key and Peele, Teachers, Transparent, Life in Pieces, Two Broke Girls, New Girl, Happy Endings, How I Met Your Mother, and the popular web series EastEnders and Adulting, which he won an Indie Series Award for Best Guest Actor. And these are just a little few of his credits, by the way. He has written and performed 5 solo shows, including his most recent Happy Birthday, Doug. He received an Outstanding Performance Award at Outfest LA in 2018 for the Broadway HD capture of bright colors and bold patterns, which you can watch on BroadwayHD.com, by the way. He is an alum of the Groundlings and Upright Citizens Brigade in LA, where he performs regularly and teaches. Other LA theater credits include Charles Busch's Die Mommy Die, Justin Sayers' Ravenswood's Manor, Matt Wilkus and Mark Setlock's Born to Win, Julie Brown's The Homecoming Queen's Got a Musical. We had her on when she was doing that, by the way. Long-running drag show, The Golden Girls with a Z. It's Girls with a Z. And musical parodies of True Beverly Hills and The Devil Wears Prada. He hosted 2 podcasts, Glitter in the Garbage for Earwolf and Drew Droege's Minor Revelations, which rumor is might be coming back. Please welcome Drew Droege.
Hi, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome.
I'm great. Thank you for these gorgeous pictures. I love this parade of my just wig career. I appreciate it.
Well, it's so funny. When I knew you were coming on the show, I'm like, I'm a huge Drew Droege fan. I just am. And it's like, what do I love him from? And I'm like, oh yeah, that and that and that. And then in doing research for the show, it's like, you kind of lump everything together in this great cloud of goodness. And there are so many amazing projects that you have done in the industry for quite many of years. And we know LA industry can sometimes bring you in and then spit you out real fast.
Oh, sure.
But I realized I didn't know a lot about early Drew. And so kind of doing your research, of course, your first award-winning role was in The Nutcracker at the age of 3.
Oh, wow. Where did you get that?
I went to the Carolinas to find this out. But you grew up and did theater in college and high school in South and North Carolina. I want to know, what were you, now, looking at the theater pieces you do now, what were your early days, your very first days of doing theater like that you can remember? I have no clue what high school theater would even look like in the Carolinas.
Well, I grew up in a really small town outside of Charlotte. So we didn't have a high school drama department. So I got involved with a community theater, and I got to know so many wonderful, it's where I felt like an adult, because I got to meet so many people in their like 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond. And I was like, I was in like the Dario Van Frank, and I was like, I did a lot of like, those kind of plays. And then I went to college, and they cast me as a lot of old men and like weird character people. They couldn't really find my niche. Like I was never like the star like person in my ever. I was like, maybe because I was like tall and they didn't have that many men that showed up to audition. They'd be like, oh, stand on the side, carry a spear, that kind of a thing. And it really wasn't until I started doing improv and started to get to like write this is my jam,
Some of the best shows, and Michael, I know you probably agree, some of the best shows I've seen in LA have been in basement theaters. They're not the big glitzy. I mean, it's some of the best performances that I've seen and some of the most appreciative audiences I've seen. So Drew, I know
they're thrilled to be there.
Yeah. Exactly. Especially, LA theater, good LA theater. It's a little hard to find sometimes. Now, you have said in some of your interviews that you had really wanted to start out as like a dramatic actor. Like that's where you thought the whole like it was at, and that's what you wanted to be. And now we are talking to one of the funniest people in the business. Why was it so important for you to be a dramatic actor?
I just thought that was what was important, or that was what made it good. Like it was weird. I never really connected the fact that I grew up watching Carol Burnett show, Saturday Night Live, In Living Color, Married with Children, like all the shows, all comedies. Yeah. That's what I really loved. But in my mind, like I was going to be an actor, like I was going to be Jude Law, and I was not. And I would try to do these dramatic plays and get laughs when I'm trying to be like serious, and it made me crazy. But then it was a good lesson when I did comedy again, about like just play it real, and then you have a funny face, you have a funny voice, Drew. Just go out there and do your best. Don't worry about it. Don't try to be funny. Just do your thing, and try to be dramatic. Then they'll laugh. Try to be good. Then they'll laugh at you.
I remember being in college back Don't start. Back in the 20s or whenever I was
In the
there.
Oregon Trail, he died of dysentery on the way to math class.
twice, like Tanya Roberts.
Oh my God, too soon.
Too soon. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
God.
that. So being in college and thinking the same thing, but didn't really appreciate how difficult, not difficult, yes, but how it was equal. It was an equal challenge as being dramatic.
I never respected it in a way that I don't know why, and I get mad now when like the Oscar nominations always come out every year, and I'm like, why don't you nominate the comedies? But it's like we have this weird like prestige. Oh, someone dies, it's good. You know,
that's exactly. Or they put on a fake nose and have an accent, and then they're amazing as long as they're not funny about it.
Somebody cries and screams, or and that's a great moment because
But it is so difficult to play comedy. Drew, somebody from our chat room wants to know, where outside Charlotte are you from?
I'm from a little town called Lincolnton, North Carolina.
It's like. Oh, I was gonna say, like, his less talented cousin. Like, who is this?
Yeah, definitely less talented. Most definitely a Confederate. I'm sure not, an Abe Lincoln in his politics.
And we don't talk about him.
Well, Drew, maybe there's like a one-man show there.
There could be. Yeah.
You've also said, and I've heard this from Leslie Jordan, is when you're young and you have insecurities, such as you don't even know that your sexuality is an issue, you use comedy as a way to kind of build a wall between yourself and bullies, and not only that, but to also make fun of yourself first before anybody else can, and you kind of ingratiate yourself. Did you have to deal with any bullying?
Oh yeah, I in 7th grade I was called a fag every day. I would measure my day when I would get home of like if I wasn't called a fag, that was a good day.
Wow.
And it was so normal to me at the time. I don't remember feeling really plagued by it. But I did learn by 8th grade ish. I did a lot of impressions of my teachers. And that made my classmate and of course fellow students. I just made fun of everyone, and then people laughed. They liked me because I made fun of people. And then I realized I hurt people's feelings, and I learned that a lot in high school. Like, don't do that. Like, you have a power, use it for good. Don't be mean. But then one thing that I did in the South that kept the bullies away more than comedy was I pretended to be possessed. Like, I made them think that I had the devil inside me, and they stayed away. They wanted nothing to do with someone who might have some sort of evil demon. So I just say act crazy. It's just like if someone comes at you, like, start acting crazy, and then people are like, oh, that's a live wire.
The only devil I had in me in high school was Devil's Food Cake. Wah, wah. But it's funny that you say that. You didn't want to be mean. When I look at your comedy history, you have a very biting wit in that it's very quick, and you can throw a little classic shade, is what I like to say. But the majority of your comedy and your shows is so positive, which we know into be mean, and that's what we're lauding. It's a whole different kind of idea of what's funny, and I love comedians and creative people like yourself that do keep it positive and kind of bring some joy from comedy, which comedy was intended in the first place.
Yeah, I think you can be you can make fun of somebody without being hurtful, right?
But
I think the person has to deserve the jab. Like, have they asked for it? And again, everyone has a different gauge for what that means, and I think that's fair. But a lot of it is something that they did or that they said that we can sort of point out and we could laugh at, and also we can laugh and love at the same time. We could celebrate and make fun of something. I mean, I think that's a lot in camp. It's like, why do we love drag queens? Why do we love Mommy Dearest? Why do we love glitter? Because we love it and make fun of it at the same time. It's like that gay thing, and I think it's finding that balance. And God, we're not always right, but then there are people like Bianca Del Rio, who's a genius. I'm not that. So I let her, I'm more into like, I'm going to play a character, and I really want to make sure that I don't know, that you ask for it. But you put a wig on, you get away with a lot more. You can play terrible people, but the joke is on them. Like, laugh at me, I'm not laughing at you for, being here tonight.
Drew, I want to know, what was the defining moment of you packing your bags and saying, okay, let's head to LA, and why LA over New York?
That's such a good question. Honestly, I think I had friends from college in both places. I had been to New York several times. I'd only been to LA when I was a kid, so I didn't really know LA as much, but I really think it was like the sunshine and the Groundlings. Like I wanted to do improv and sketch comedy, and the Groundlings was a school that I had heard about, and I walked in the lobby and I saw a lot of actors that I knew and really loved, and so that's what I just was like, I'll try LA for a while. I also thought like I'll get on a sitcom and that's how I can get on Broadway. Like that's kind of where my brain was, which is still where it is at 43.
Hey, I mean, and it makes sense, get money from doing a sitcom so you can survive doing a Broadway show, because we know the money's not there.
Or that you're a big enough name to be able to be on Broadway. You get a bit on some show,
right.
Then they finally go, oh, now they can do that.
Yeah.
So
it's like, you do a sitcom, you can do Chicago at any point in your life.
Anytime.
Is that a BB crack?
No, she earned it. I mean, she's a dancer, but some of the people that came after. Anyway, so Drew, I want to know.
Housewives and, and it was,
I mean, it's literally.
And like whatever, like, come on.
I love about hearing. I'm a native SoCal actor, and so I've always been in it, and it's fun seeing the newbies that come in that have done theater in their high school, whatever, to see them at the audition. I want to know about some of your earliest auditions. We've all made huge blunders or mistakes or acting choices, shall I say. Do you have any awful, funny early LA audition stories?
I have so many. There's so many things that I've done. The first one that pops in my mind is, I got like weird auditions, and one of which was this guy who I didn't know at all, who turned out being crazy, who was a casting assistant, got me in to audition for this Larry Clark movie, and Larry Clark directed Kids, which was Chloe Sevigny's first movie, and he was like, "You got it." And so he got me in on this movie and convinced me to get in full drag. And I mean, if you've seen it's not really like Drag Race drag. It's booger, like hag drag. It's like a wig.
Hag drag.
It's not about, so anyway, I drove all the way across town, parked my car, couldn't find the place, was walking out, and I don't look like a drag queen when I'm in it. I look just like a crazy person.
Yeah. I mean,
and so I'm out
funny.
walking, trying to find this thing. I go into the audition. No one else is in costume. People are snickering and be like, what's going on with this person? And I went into the room and they basically were like, there's no part for you. Like and so they just let me improvise with a regularly dressed person. And they just let me improvise a scene because they just felt bad for me, because they convinced me, because they kept being like, what part are you here for? And I'm like, I don't know. You told me. And I was an idiot about it. Like I didn't run it by my manager or anything. I just went. And then they called me the next day and they were like, and it was so awkward. And I had to do it for Larry Clark and he didn't get what I was doing. And
oh my God.
He asked me to do some of my act and I was so nervous. He was really nice. Like drinking a giant weird juice and kind of creepy, but like he was trying to give me my space, put it that way. And I was just driest mouth. I could barely get noise out. I was so embarrassed that I was there, and like clearly it wasn't my place. And the next day they called me and they said, so we're going to use you in the movie. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, that's crazy. How? And then they were basically offering me an extra job because they felt bad for me. They thought,
hey, but it's a job.
Down here, let him be in a party scene somewhere. He can be in a movie if he's that big of a fan. Because they kind of treated me like I was a stalker of Chloe Sevigny and Larry Clark's. And like, if you love this world so much, come be in the background somewhere. So I did, because I felt really just weird about the whole thing. But that was really embarrassing.
It's funny. Speaking of auditions, you actually had a role that I auditioned for. It was one of my first LA auditions. I got to LA in 2010, 2011. Eating Out Drama Camp.
Oh yeah, Drew did that.
I auditioned for Dick Dickey. Honestly, yeah. And I just remember, I knew I wasn't right for it. Like I just could feel it in my bones. So I was already out of my mind. And then I walk into this room and Chris is, Chris Salvatore, who's this, beautiful God, is sitting there.
Yeah.
And it's one of my first auditions. So I was so thrown by not feeling confident about it. And also, oh my God, look at this man. And,
Oh, of course. He was there.
yeah, he was at the
just there?
audition. Yeah. It was the first time I
Wow.
met him. Yeah. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that is so wild, isn't it? Crazy. I mean,
It's such a small world. LA is such a small world.
it really is. I remember doing that. I had such a good time. I had not to rub it in. Like I had a
No,
great
no.
time before that movie.
He's like, ha ha.
I was just happy, I had just gotten to LA and I had already gotten an audition for a film and I thought, woo, so that was the reward there.
I remember those when I first got to town. I actually weirdly lucked out with a lot of big auditions that it took me years. That still to this day I wouldn't be able to get. I just lucked and I didn't get any of them.
Mhm.
But I remember auditioning for some. I don't remember what the movie was, but I had to go to the director's house, and I didn't realize like that means you're like kind of
Yeah.
close to because you're like meeting the director and hanging out. And I remember I met John Cho that day, and he was in American Pie, and I was like, oh, cool. And I didn't really think about it like. When you're sort of meeting actors who are like you're doing great, but none of those I got. And then it was like back to the back page of Backstage West where you're begging someone so that you can pay them to drive and be in your
Yeah.
It's almost like the town gives you like a shot, like get off the bus and they give you, I don't know. I felt like I got a lot of really big shots that they were like, no, when you're 22,
Yeah.
it took me about 10 years to get a job really.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's about that journey that keep going. We have a lot of people that come to LA and even newbies that we have on the show that are booked on MTV or CW and they think, okay, this is it. It's like, no, you have to work every day.
Oh, it's persistence.
No matter what show you
absolutely.
have today does not guarantee anything in the future. Drew, because you're on the show, we got a lot of questions from actors that are just starting out in LA to veteran actors that really understand your body of work and know about this hard work. They want to know, one of the questions we got in a few different ways is, what are the most common mistakes newbie LA actors make during their auditions?
Well, I would say during the auditions, I think it's a mistake to hang out too long after you're done.
Oh.
Like if they say you're good, we got it, just leave. Because I've noticed that from being on the other side, I've been able to be on the other side, and
Yeah.
sometimes someone comes in and nails it, and we're like, that was great, that was perfect, and then they kind of keep hanging out and trying to do bits, and it gets weird, and you're like, is that person creepy? And they're most likely just nervous
Yeah.
and thinking they need to be in the room longer to make an impression. But you kind of make an impression you definitely make an impression the second you walk in the door. And if you are what they're looking for, it's hard to it's hard to mess that up. And if you're not what they're looking for, you can be great, but you're not going to get it. And so just go in there and do your job. And sometimes you go in and nail it and they don't need to see anymore. And by hanging out, it's a little weird. Don't try to be funny or like sassy. And that's also a thing I would say to gay actors. I think it's our nervous.
I think that's
we'll
a
say something
huge
really
tip.
Trying to be too personal, like creating a sort
Or
of
it's like,
connection that's not.
I'm the new Jack from Will and Grace. No, it's like, that is such a good point,
Yeah,
Drew.
it's people just get a little bit creeped out by that if they feel like you're not. They also just they don't think you trust your audition or your material, like your talent. They think you need it. It's a weird thing. And then mainly just like be cool, be somebody that people want to have there. Like, just I know that sounds, but like they're picking you sometimes for a really long stretch of time. And so, go in there and be respectful, be thankful. You don't have to be super grateful and ingratiating and crazy, but
Yeah, because isn't that audition a sort of example of how you're going to be, how you're
On
going
set,
to,
yeah.
how you're going to behave on set, for an extended amount of time. It's, you want to make that impression that you're not going to be difficult, you're not going to be needy, you're going to do the job.
It's almost like the same rules as like a grinder date. Don't overstay your welcome. Don't try to be too sassy. Right?
absolutely.
And don't steal anything.
Get
Wow.
business and get out.
Yes. I just stole the scene.
Oh.
Drew, another question we got. You have played so many different characters in your career, from borrowed roles, like in musical adaptations of movies or parodies that you've done, to Chloe, to your own characters. What is your creative process when developing a character? How do you start, and I guess how do you construct a character that's both funny but also sincere.
Yeah, I always like try to think of like it's a groundlings thing I learned about like what is the character's point of view? Like what is their what I always think about like I don't really do impressions and it's like
Yeah.
even Chloe or like whatever like what I
That's
do
what I
or
love.
Tanya Roberts who RIP like I used to do Tanya a lot. I'm not really doing them. I'm doing like kind of like a weird cracked imagining like but it's all about like what's their comedic flaw? What's the thing about them that you can sort of hook onto every time? Like so it's like I guess with Chloe it's like she's always name dropping.
Yeah.
Instead of really talking about any real experience, she's always like name dropping and plugging products and people. You know, or whatever. So I kind of think of it like that and then you kind of put the comedy in after that, I think. And then just try a bunch of things because a lot of things don't work. I mean, a lot of things I've done just didn't work at all, and you just have to know from trying it and putting it up in front of people.
I must say, I live for your Chloe videos. They're one of the things that I always, if I have a friend over or whatever who's never seen one, and we're just at that moment, you know, you're having wine or whatever, and just showing each other crap on the phone or whatever, not crap, but stuff on the phone. And it's one of the things I'm always, oh, have you ever seen him do Chloe Sevigny? And yeah.
Well, you know, and I have to tell you, I'm a huge Chloe fan. From Kids, from some of the obscure stuff, from Party Monster to her most recent HBO series, because she's so weird. And what I love, and what I love about all the characters is exactly what you said: is you don't try to mimic, you don't try to impersonate. You get the inflection, you get their kind of intention and energy, and then you kind of make it your own, which to me is the most winning performance because you are acting rather than just, you know, trying to copy somebody, because copycats don't do anything. There's no passion there and there's no personality there.
I mean, I know a handful of comedians who are hilarious and do these great impressions as well, but I'm not I just don't do it well. And it gets in the way for me. It feels like math when I have to be like, oh, they kind of hold their head like this and they kind of do this, and it feels a little too methodic. It is a little soulless. And so I think I like to be messier and sort of freer with it and go, well, when I play them, they're going to do this and say this, even though the real person may not have to do that. And even when you do, like you were saying, I like borrowed characters. I don't think I've ever heard that before. I love that phrase. But when you're doing like Meryl Streep in Double Rose Prada, or you know, any of those,
Yeah.
you can do a little bit of that. But we've already seen that movie, so you kind of, I mean, Jackie Beat has a great thing. She always tells us when we do the Golden Girls, she's like, give people what they think they remember.
Oh, that's exactly right.
You have that space to kind of go, oh, you know, so I mean, you know, Blanche wasn't constantly doing this, but when Sherry does it, it gets a huge laugh because that's how we kind of remember Blanche. You know, it's like that thing where you kind of go, just, and then fill in the gaps with your own magic. You know.
Well, because there's that comfort of hitting those points, but then in making it different. I mean, it's like I've watched Devil Wears Prada 50 times. I don't need to see it again in front of me. I want to see it kind of reimagined.
How are you going to be better than Meryl Streep? You're not. Like, so you just have to kind of go, I'm going to do it over here, and it's going to be in the world of it all. And you're doing it on stage. I mean, that was a character that was like so quiet, and I'm in full drag at basically doing it at a dinner theater, and you have to figure out that it's a totally different energy than how she does it. So you have to realize your space that you're in and the audience.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chloe skits that you do, I've never heard her say this. I've never, experienced this with her, but I know that person, the name dropping. So it's that sort of connective or, that relative behavior that, connects and makes it funny, and then you frame it with Chloe and then, it's that. So
It's just, in fact, if we have a little time, we're going to take a little peek at that. Drew, before we bring Tom on, by the way, I want to know what acting project had the most obstacles for you? Which was the most challenging when you look back and you're like, wow, that challenged me?
That's really a great question. I don't know. I mean, because I've had a lot. I feel like there are a lot that are like, that can be really tricky. I'm trying to think offhand. I've definitely been on some sitcoms where you get thrown in last minute, or like you're just on for like a day or two and you don't really know what's going on. I'm trying to, like interpersonally between the people on there, and there's like a weird vibe. And I'm trying to think I was on one, and thank God one of the actors came up and said, we're about to get canceled, so don't take it personally. Everyone's being really weird. So you take it all, So you take it really personally because you get on there and you're like, here I am, ready to do my job. And people are kind of, so you really have to kind of go in there when you're a guest star on a TV show and just be kind of like not bump into furniture and just try to do your job and not make it at your moment, and then I've done that sometimes to a fault. Like, I mean, because I have to have I don't know. I have to be encouraged to like go in there and make it my own. So it's always hard in a way. I mean, I did a film this year. I got to do a film called The Extinction of Fireflies. It's going to come out this year. And it was a drama, which is what I've wanted to do forever.
Yes.
And it was really hard for the first time to really go, oh, right, this thing that I've always wanted to do. Because, I mean, I had a couple funny moments, but I was not the funny part of the movie, which I loved it, but it was definitely a challenge.
Well, and there has to be that pressure on you. I mean, everybody knows Drew as the funny guy who nails it and everything. And so it's like, okay, funny guy, be serious. Like, people are going to be thinking that. So there's that in the back of your mind, but then you're in the moment while filming. That's a lot of pressure.
Well, and you're a character that wouldn't respond in the way Drew would. You have to be like, oh, well, your character is really depressed and shut down and not like, I mean, he's a witty character, but he was not in the same vein that I was. And I had to realize that, like, oh yeah, it's this, being the actor, you're like, oh, I have to do it in this box and not, something else. So yeah.
Well, I'm really excited. I watched Making Friends, which is a digital theater piece through I Am a Theater. And we know theater right now, it's kind of a scary arena for a lot of our working friends. And so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get a word from our sponsor. When we come back, we have Tom DeTrinis, who's the star of Making Friends, which is a show that Drew directed. And we're gonna add Tom to the mix, and then we're really going to mix it up. So let's hear from our sponsors, and we're going to bring on Tom when we come back.
Oh, great.
This is Alexander from On the Rocks, where celebrities and cocktails mix, here to chat about fandaddies.com. High fives and good vibes is your go-to site to get the hottest accessory for 2021. Yes, the fabulous clacking fan with designs that are totally fetch. And you may think that fetch can't happen, but it totally can. They call me Fetch Betch. Now here are the top uses for your Fandaddies fan. To look fabulous. You can spill the tea and tell secrets, but fancy-like. It is also the perfect punctuation for reclaiming your time. I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
I'm speaking.
I'm
speaking.
And it can also cover that vodka breath. Oh, it's mouthwash, I swear. And last but not least, it makes you look fabulous. So fabulous, you have to say it twice. So go to fandaddies.com and get the fan for that best suits your image. Until we can clack our way through festivals, prides, and events, it's the perfect accessory to spruce up your Instagram selfies or send as a gift. So extra. Support small businesses at fandaddies.com. And we are back. I want to bring onto the show Dom, because he's so fancy. He's like a fancy champagne. Tom DeTrinis, originally from Long Island, came to L.A. by way of Buffalo, by the way, where he received his BFA in musical theater from University at Buffalo. Although he's been... I'm sorry?
I said correct.
Yes. Oh, yes. Girl, you better sit down because your resume is impressive. Although he's been performing on the stage since he was 8 in various regional theaters, he started in the business as an assistant at a talent management company where he worked for over 7 years. I know there's a one-man show in just that. During that time, he started to produce and perform in theater around L.A. He co-founded the parody musical company 30 Minute Musicals. The team put on over 16 original musicals over the course of 8 years and recently traveled to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 2019, pre-COVID. Damn you, COVID. He also performed at the Rockwell Table and Stage in their productions of Clueless, Devil Wears Prada, and Hocus Pocus, some of which is bootleg on YouTube, just saying. At the Celebration Theater, where he is currently the co-associate artistic director, he played Lance in Die Mommy Die, which was chosen to be remounted at the Kirk Douglas Theater by the Center Theater Group as part of their Block Party series, celebrating the LA theater community. And as a director, he assisted on Hair at the LA LGBT Center, Mutt House at the Kirk Douglas Theater, and Born to Win at the Celebration Theater. He co-directed the serialized camp horror play Ravenswood Manor, and that was a theater piece, by the way, at Celebration Theater, which is currently in development, by the way, with Sony TV. Hey, girl, are you single? Yes, you are. He also directed Droege in his second play, Happy Birthday, Doug, which premiered in L.A., then went off to off-Broadway at the Soho Playhouse right before the world shut down due to COVID. And on the small and big screen, Tom has appeared on TV in 90210, Greek, Community, Switched at Birth, in film in the recent hit 12-Hour Shift, Squirrel, Broken Vows, Wedding Dance, A Just a Dream, Freeway Killers, and on the web, he is the co-creator of Finding the Asshole, which was an official selection of Slam Dance in 2019, and is currently in development as a TV show. And for his day job, which I love because it's in quotes, he has been working as a personal chef to various celebrities and families all over LA, providing healthy, organic cuisine for almost a decade. Please welcome Tom DeTrinis.
Oh, why, thank you. My goodness, what an intro.
What? Well, I mean, this is it. You and Drew, I'm like, how many pages do I need to print out for this?
God, for this I didn't get any of that.
So I have to say, the reason we have you gentlemen here is Tom, your one-man show, directed by Drew, Making Friends with Diama Theater, just recently got a digital extension, by the way, to January 18th. Making Friends is a gay-tastic look at anger through the eyes of a quick-witted rageaholic who just wants to be your friend. And the critics absolutely love it. And when I read, you know how we get press releases and it's like, oh, this show's coming up and this show's coming up. And I'm like, oh, the names involved. And then to hear the subject's like, yeah, a rageaholic, we're all a little angry right now. And there's a part in the play where I literally just kind of sat there and I was like, it was such a breath. It was like venting with your best friend and feeling okay about venting. We're all supposed to be so, taking care of ourselves and being the best version of ourselves and finding ourselves during COVID. And we can be angry too. And that's what I really loved about the piece as well.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad you had that response. That's really, really great.
There were so many moments, at the beginning of the show. And Kurt, can we just play a little trailer from the beginning? This is just a little sample that we're going to look at of Finding Friends.
Oh my goodness, this house. Oh, this house. I'm impressed. I'm so impressed. No, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yes, I'd love a drink. Please, more drinks. Everyone gets drinks. Everyone gets drinks. Yes, Beyonce is awesome. I love her. So was Adele. And Carole King. Do you know Carole King? She's wonderful. She's great. Yeah. I would love some cheese. Thank you. A cheese at a party is perfect. That's what I need. Fucking cheese. I fucking hate cheese.
Oh, man.
So this is the comedic kind of entrance to it. And you're like, oh, this is really funny. I kind of know what I'm going to see. And then the show takes you on a ride it's about that, but it's about so many other things. What I love about this opening, it's literally a representation of every LA party I have ever been to, wanting to fit in, saying the right thing, being cool, wanting to be part of the clique, but hating the clique at the same time. The whole show is a very candid, naked look at your entire life, filled with wanting to make friends, loved and accepted, basically, whether it be family, career, boyfriends. I think this is the perfect time for this show because during COVID, all of our social obligations are gone. Our social pressures are gone. You can literally, because we're stuck at home, wear what you want every day. You can eat what you want, communicate with who we want. We can even ignore who we want. It's become a time of self-reflection. And I find it interesting that a number of LGBTQ big name actors, by the way, have come out as bisexual, have come out as gay, have come out as trans, because we're like, who cares? I'm tired of trying to fit in. Who cares? For me, this is the message I got from Making Friends. But I want to talk about the piece from an actor's and a director's standpoint. When you watch it, the first few moments, you know, we have that comedic intro, that monologue, which is so hilarious, and then the camera kind of shows this empty theater, and as an actor, I'm like, wow, empty, dead space, which we know can be killer for anything because you don't know how to gauge the comedy, the audience, the response. You don't know how fast to go. I want to talk about the very first moment that you filmed, what that kind of feeling was when you're playing to an empty theater.
Well, it was really, really jarring. You know, in the rehearsals we had, excuse me, like, you know, 3, 4, just a few people listening and laughing. And Drew was very clear when we were in the rehearsal room, like, hey, everybody who's here, like, laugh, give him the energy so that he can really feel what it would be like if there was an actual audience. And thank God he said that, because I had to kind of just put myself into that space. But the very first time we did it, it was like, we all ready, lights, camera, action, blah, 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 blah. It was so hard, and it was exactly that. It was jarring. It was weird. It was like nothing I've ever felt before. And after we finally like did the entire show, because we ran it once totally in order without stopping, I went up to Drew and I was like, "Kill me, I'm dead. Just like, this is it. I don't want to be here. Get me out of here." And he was like, "No, it's fine. I can't read any of that on your face. I can't see any of that." And it actually, I think, you know, thinking more on it afterwards, it really did help the piece. The fact that I was so frustrated that there wasn't an audience there, because it made me not plan any choices that I was planning to make. It made me kind of just be very present in what I was feeling and what was happening with me on the stage. And, you know, if I was struggling, it didn't look like I was struggling. And, you know, I trust Drew of times a bazillion %. And he would have stopped and been like, hey, let's go back and do that again if it was looking like that. So you have to just I had to put my full trust into Drew and into the entire team to be like, I think this is what it needs to look like. And I just had to kind of fly. And I think we wouldn't have been able to do it if we didn't have like this long history, Drew and I, of working with each other and knowing how we both work, and also he and I knowing what the fuck is funny and what's not funny. I think we went through that entire show and we're like, this is not funny to us. This is not funny to us. This is funny to us. This is working. We laugh every time that we do this, or I'm laughing even when I'm up there. Like, we knew kind of what like we kind of was our own litmus test, and I'm glad that our litmus test is pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's almost like when you're making a video, you know, you really don't have your live audience there, so you have to make whoever's making it what you think's funny. So there is a benefit to that as well. Like, you don't have to be a slave to your audience when you don't have one. You know, you're like, and I kind of felt like it was a happy accident with, you know, with the pandemic, and that like we couldn't have an audience there. And the show is about, it's literally called Making Friends, and the things that Tom does to get people to like him, and he's playing to an empty room. I thought it was really poignant and kind of beautiful, to being like, wow. And, you know, it's that thing about like, I want people to love me, and where are the people, you know?
I thought that was so interesting, because watching it, I as somebody that has done a one-man show, when I first saw that empty audience, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be rough.
The first minute, I got a little anxiety, because I've done more theater than I've been on camera. So I was just like, oh my God, is this going to work? and then it did.
Because it kind of, it kind of, then it broke the fourth wall. And then the journey became about, oh, the empty stage is so relevant, and it's like another character that's playing with you, to Drew, like what you were saying, to exactly what is happening in the show is Making Friends to this empty room. You know, it's like all of these empty relationships that shout back at us. And then as the show, especially for the denouement, then it was like the audience, the empty audience was out, and then it was just you and me, and then it was me being you, and how we all try to make friends, no matter if you're gay, straight, or what you've been through. And so to me, it really was a journey that I had that I wouldn't have had if I would have been there in person.
Oh, cool.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
I
great.
think we could have had like 25% like audience. We could have had like a quarter, like just by COVID regulations. And that, I was thinking, that's going to sound like scattered laughs. Like he's got like some plants laughing, and we're at somebody's weird like house party, and it's not going to feel like an audience, you know, or it's going to feel like a dead night. And you're like, I don't want to be in a room with 25 out of 100 people, you know. So we just made that decision, and and he did such a great job of just like really just like talking to the camera, letting the camera be the audience.
Yeah, and even though and that was part of the conversation too in the process of getting this up was, do I look right at the camera? Do I not look right at the camera? And we came to the conclusion that I shouldn't, because it then felt like, I don't know why that felt better than if I was actually talking to the camera. Like, it felt more like you were with me when I wasn't putting my eyes down the barrel. It was kind of like we had to just kind of figure those things out in the process. And actually, those answers came very quickly, because we tested it with the camera. We're like, does this look good? And immediately Drew was like, nope, it doesn't.
Well, it's funny. We've all seen shows that are streamed. I mean, we just saw Hamilton. Drew, I know one of your favorite shows is Sunday in the Park with George, which we have seen the recording of that. And it doesn't really kind of capture this, which this looks like it was definitely filmed for this kind of medium, which is so odd because a one-man show filmed. What? And Michael and I were talking before the show. When we're in a theater, we will, whether it be a movie theater or an actual theater, we will tend to laugh if other people are laughing, because that's just the energy.
Right. Sure.
When I watch stuff at home, I never laugh out loud. I never kind of whatever, because there's not that pressure on me. And so this really became more of a conversation rather than me enjoying a performance. It was like, wow, he's talking about things that I'm dealing with, that we're all dealing with. It became very personal, and it became more of a one-on-one. Yeah.
Wow. Really, that's kind of like what we wanted. That's really what we wanted. We had to develop this without any human beings at all, really. So I'm glad that still came across, because I think that is something that is so special about theater, is that you do get to commune with your audience in a way, and it does become, everyone's laughing together, but it almost feels like when you see a really good theater piece that you are in conversation with that artist on the stage, or the artist on the stage. And I'm glad that kind of translated. That really is.
But
really
but it's also difficult, because it's not like you're trying the show out of town to see what jokes land.
Right.
He's
never done this show in front of an audience. So hopefully, when we get back to live theater, he can do it in front of people, and I'm sure it'll change, and there'll be things that will cut and get bigger, and I'm sure it will have a new life in front of people. Because in audience, I always love the phenomenon of, especially small audiences, when it's less than 200 people in the audience, they dictate where all the laughs are each night. And you're doing a show 7-8 times a week, and something gets a laugh 6 out of those, and then that one night it gets no laughs, and you're like, wow, that audience just collectively decided that didn't work. And it could have been like a hiccup, it could have been the tiniest little traffic noise outside, or just that audience just decided. So I love that phenomenon is something that I miss in live theater, and then I think we'll find when we do it live.
Now, you and Drew have directed each other, which I love. What have you learned most from each other in each capacity, as an actor and as a director?
Wow, what a question! That's a great question.
I'm impressed.
You can go first, Drew. You can go first.
Nothing and zero.
Exactly. I was going to say the same.
Hair tips from Tom DeTrinis.
Next question, please.
No comment.
No, I mean, what I love is that is Tom. Well, first of all, we do have a very similar sense of humor, and Tom is just really willing to. We trust each other. Like, we both just do whatever the other one says to do. When whoever's directing, go, hey, try this. And there's never like a conversation. I've tried to get better, but I just have to admit, sometimes as an actor, I can be a little bit like with a director, I can go, why would I do that? Why would I say it like that? Why would I? And I hate that I get like that. It's not don't be like that, actors. It's awful. But I don't have that with Tom, and he never had that with me. It's just like, I would just go, do this on one foot, and he would go, all right. And I'm like, that was a terrible idea. I'm so sorry. Don't do that. And it would be like, he's just really willing to jump in the deep end. And so we're really able to, play in both ways. And then I think when he was my director for my solo show, like, I trusted him, like, because it's very nerve-wracking performing for one person as much as performing for 0 people. You're like one person that's trying it out. And it's just like, this might be terrible, and we're friends. Are we gonna, but we're very honest with each other to say, this works, this doesn't work, move this here, this is great. Don't mess with this at all. Like, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think what I've always learned from watching Drew perform, first as like a fellow actor for several shows, and then moving into the director of Drew, is that Drew is also very fearless in that way. That I'll just be like, do this, and he'll be like, yeah, or or even times if he's like, I don't know, I'm like, okay, yeah, scrap it. I think, and that's what I think collaboration is about, is being able to just say, hey, try this, and not take anything personally.
Yeah.
And I kind of learned that from Drew, and I also kind of appreciate that about our working relationship, is just kind of like, just do this. Okay, it doesn't work. Fine, who cares? And you move on. You know, and I think a lot of the times people get so, you go into the rehearsal room and you've got all of these fucking choices that you want to make. And I think when I've seen Drew in the rehearsal room, and I feel like myself in the rehearsal room, I don't like walking in having the answers. I have to take the time to figure it out. And I think that's why the relationship kind of has been very successful in that way. So I feel like a therapist, like analyzing it. What is happening? But it is very, I think that really is kind of the key. It's kind of just like, go for it. Even if it's a shit fucking suggestion. Because in Ravenswood, when we were doing Ravenswood, I mean, we blocked that show, that like 12 different theater pieces, basically. We blocked that in a matter of like 2.5 weeks. It was like 300 pages of dialogue we blocked in 2.5 weeks. And
yeah, this
I
was
think
the show that was new episodes on stage, like soap opera every week. And so we had 90 pages of material that we had to learn every week for 6 weeks. It was insane. It was
insane, but also wonderful. And it was just it was one of those times where no matter who was directing or acting in it, we all had to be in agreement. I would work with any of those people in any kind of situation, because we had to say to everyone in that room, do this, and no one questioned it. And it worked and it didn't work, and we knew when it worked and we knew when it didn't work. So just because you feel it, and when you're in that room with another person that you trust, you kind of just feel the energy of like, yeah, no. And I think that is something that I've always learned from Drew, especially in the many iterations of things that we've done together.
And that's so hard in a sort of directorial relationship, for me anyway, to just trust and just do, you know, and trust that that person has your best interest and wants you to look at, you know, as good, and wants the piece to succeed as much as you do. You know, I've had, there have been times when
well, you know, it's funny because we were talking about, you know, Drew's comedy style is very positive.
Yeah.
And we know in this industry, there's so many people ready to tear you down or make fun of your choices or whatever. So exploring during rehearsal with this pressure, even singing in your car, you know, you sing differently in your car with your best friend. You're like, oh, I can hit this note, and if I don't hit it, who cares? We're singing in the car, rather than like, you know, what if somebody from outside the car hears me? There's just this bubble we've built where people are so quick to judge. And so when you do work with a team that you trust, that they trust you, it's like they've seen you at your worst and they've seen you at your best. So whatever you choose is going to fall somewhere in between, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, what I respect about in the rehearsal process with Drew is he's always like, no one take any pictures. No one take any videos of this because it's not ready. And, you know, I think he's right. Like, you really shouldn't, you know, it's okay to take a still of us just like fooling around in rehearsal, but it's not the time for in a theater piece. It's not the time for you to like take a bunch of like, you know, videos to share of us in the rehearsal room unless we kind of choreograph what it needs to look like. Because, you know, homos are real quick to be like, that's shit. That's crap. That's shit. That's not funny. That's not funny. And it's like, girl, it's not ready, bitch.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, also we have to remember, technically the show that we just did, Making Friends, is kind of a workshop. It's a virtual premiere. It's not a finished piece. But I don't think that any theater piece, unless you're fucking Hamilton, is a fucking finished piece. You know, like it's even Hamilton, I can guarantee you, if you said, Leonard, there's things you would change, or Tommy Kail, the director, they both would be like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Because they've seen, it's never perfect, you know?
And we know that times evolve. When Hamilton first came out, you know, it was, you know, we were in a different era, and now things have definitely changed. We got this question from Kenny from the chat room. Drew, how do you direct an actor in a one-man show, basically directing them on who they are, what their real life is? How do you
Yeah.
direct somebody on how to be themselves? Like, how did you tell Tom, hey, you have to do yourself better?
I'm not really believing you as you. Whatever you're doing, I don't like this person. No, it's hard because a lot of it goes with the writing. You have to really kind of go, what are you actually saying here? And, it took us a couple of rehearsals to realize, like, oh, this show is actually about the things that you do, Tom, to make people like you, and what you hide about your truth and about yourself. And this is actually a coming out story about anger, that you're a closeted angry person. And so when we found that out, and you do have to be therapists a little bit and sort of figure out, people in a way. And I had directors that did this with me. And Tom did it with me on my show, like kind of saying, this is actually what you've written. Cause you don't know. It's weird. When you write it yourself, you don't always know what you're putting out there. And it does take someone sitting outside who can be a little more objective and go, oh, it's this. And so then you kind of hook everything onto that. And then it's just a matter of going, okay, is this is this the version of you that we want to show in the show? Because you can't show every aspect. It's like sometimes the hardest characters to play are people that are based on your parents or your siblings, because you know them on so many levels.
Yeah.
It's hard to boil it down. And so when you're playing yourself, you've been, however many years you've been on this earth, it's impossible to do that in an hour. So you have to go, this is what I'm going to show about you in this hour because of this show. And there could be another show that Tom does, and if I direct him again, it might be a different Tom. It might be a different person that we're sort of focusing on, and that's okay. So you don't try to get every color of the person in that short amount of time, because that just feels chaotic. And instead you just kind of go, what are we saying with the show? And then a lot of it is like, just is talking them off the ledge. And he did it with me as the actor, just going, you're enough. You're doing great. The story is valid. People want to see this. They love you. Because your own story, you never think is interesting enough. You think you have to go outside of your truth and go, oh, it'll be funnier if I do this, or it'll be more interesting if I do this. And those things are usually never as good as what's actually real. But it's so hard to trust that, So I also think if you're a new director, a solo show might be the first thing to direct someone well. Or I'll say this. If you're doing a solo show, get a director that you know and trust more than a director who comes in with their,
Their own
their
vision.
what's director hat? What's it called? What do they wear?
Bonnets.
A chapeau, a beret.
A chapeau is more like it. But you don't need you're saying Tommy Kail, or you don't need that person to direct you. You need someone who knows and trusts you really well. And so it might be like, use someone who has less directing experience, who knows you better. I think that's a better choice than someone who's directed 500 musicals, and plays, over the years.
I think it's also a fine line, though, because we know, even like when we see directors in Hollywood work with the same crew, sometimes it really, really works. And sometimes it's like, how did that director let them do that on screen? It's a fine line where somebody who knows you well will maybe let you get away with some habits that you have that are not the best because they know you so well. So it really is a fine line. And this brings me, let's have an honest conversation about one-man shows. There's the stereotype that your friend hands you a poster, say, I'm having a one-man show. And we're all like, oh, groan, oh,
I've got
God.
a thing.
Yeah.
I'm busy. My phone is on fire.
COVID. I invented COVID just so I don't have to go to your one-man show.
Literally.
Yeah, but Tom, we don't have that excuse now. Like, we can literally go to iamatheater.com and buy a ticket, extended to January 18th, by the way. But there is that negative connotation that has happened with one-man shows, and we're talking about that fine line. I think there's a fine line from a piece being very narcissistic and so involved in, look at me do this, rather than this is the story I want to tell. And so, Tom, I want to know, what story did you want to tell from Making Friends?
Well, everything you're saying about one-person shows is exactly what I didn't want this show to be. I didn't want it to be like, look at me, and like, look at all these fun things that have happened to me. And I set out to write this show to not do that. I did everything in my power to not do that show, and to not even do anything about me in general at all. I was going to write a show that was my stories, but in a different character on stage that like went through a journey and like it was all kind of scripted. And then eventually I just came to the place of I just have to tell my own story. I just have to do it. And I wanted to talk about anger really badly because for the past like 4 or 5 years, all I've been talking about in my personal time is how angry I am and how frustrated I am and like what is this emotion and where does it come from and what's underneath it. And people who are very close to me see this anger and sometimes are very scared of it. You know, there's a lot of people who I have yelled at and screamed at, and it is not it's very, very uncomfortable for them because I can get like, it's like balls of fire coming out of my mouth that just like rip you into shreds.
Well, it's also unexpected because you're normally so congenial and lovely.
Yes. And I wanted to kind of, like Drew was saying, it is a coming out story about this is really who I am.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not like super famous or anything like that, but for the people who know me, they think that I am this like, yay, joy, fun, always on. But really underneath all of that joy is a lot of emotion. And I wanted to tell that story because I felt like people would relate to it. I felt like people would watch it and go, I'm also angry. You're angry? Oh, that's funny. I never would have guessed that. I feel like as human beings, we walk around this world and we don't realize that every person is living a dual life. Every person is putting on that face in the outside world. And we have to be very sensitive to what the other side of every human being is. And that really came forward for me when we were, you know, stuck in this fucking pandemic and we were seeing people starting to fall apart and to like disintegrate and let people see who they really were because they were like, I'm so lost. I'm so depressed. I'm so angry. I'm scared. I'm all of these emotions. And it's like, oh, look at all these real people. Right. And I kind of wanted to just jump off of that. And that's really what inspired me, I guess, in a way, was that I needed to just be like, oh, I'm sick of being like the clown. I don't want to be. And I also wanted to push past the gay story that homosexual characters in media are all clowns. And I was like, we're layered. And that's what I really love about Happy Birthday, Doug, and about Bright Colors and Bold Patterns, is that they're layered homosexual characters. And that they're more than just like a bunch of laughs and we go home and we're like, oof, at least I don't have to like sleep with them at nighttime. No, fuck you. Yes, you do.
I think people do think that after they see a lot of my shows.
But that's what I loved about the first few minutes of the show. It was that monologue that was told in almost one breath, and it was like I was like, how did this bitch memorize all this stuff? You know, it's like, how did she memorize all those lines?
I don't even know how I memorized all that shit. So why don't we have a different conversation another time?
But I love how that was the first kind of bookend to what we were going to get at the end. And it's like, here's what the story's about, because it was the funny gay guy trying to make everybody happy, doing the funny one-liners, but then changing what they like. Oh, Britney? No. Beyonce? Yes. I mean, it's like, it was so real but funny to kind of put the audience like, oh, this is a funny gay guy show. Okay, got it. And then when it becomes something else, and you're like, okay, wow, I'm already in it. So here it is. So let's talk. Yeah.
Well, you broke it down to the core that, you know, we all essentially are the same in our core, because in life we're different with everybody we encounter. Like, I'm different around my mom than I am around Alexander. I'm different around colleagues than I am around, you know, the postman. You know, we change slightly for every every person we encounter. And so, you know, what I got from this is, you know, at the core, we are essentially the same, consistently the same person. We consistently have the same sort of struggle and fears and need for love and need for connection. So, you know, that's what I took from this.
Yeah, thank you. And also just need to be seen, because that's also kind of a little element of this whole show too, is like needing to just someone look at me like a normal person, or just like look and see actual me. Can you please just see actual me? I just need you to look at that for just a minute, you know?
And that was on so many levels. It was like, look at me as an actor, look at me as a family member. You're one of 6 kids, you know, how to keep your voice from being heard, you know, in that kind of group. And then look at me with somebody that you're in a relationship. You talk about one of your relationships quite vividly. And it's like, look at me in all of these different aspects. And there's a part of the show that I just felt with you. And it's like, I'm tired. And to your point, Michael, how it means everything. It's like, I'm tired of playing housewife. I'm tired of playing, the banker of the house. I'm tired of playing the perfect neighbor. I'm tired of playing the perfect best friend. We're all tired in our own way, like you said.
Absolutely.
And COVID, I think, has really exhausted that, because it's like, wow, we take a moment where that's kind of taken away. And it's like, I enjoy kind of being free and being who I am. I don't care if it's a little chunkier or a little sassier or not as sassy or not even straight.
Yeah.
True.
Both of you build characters so well, and you included characters in Making Friends, which you have the task of making some of the characters you do over the top to add the comedic element, also for us to know exactly what kind of person we're talking about. But it also has to fit in the tense reality of the whole show. I want to know from both of you, what is your creative process for your character work when you're like, okay, this is who I'm gonna kind of do. Let's incorporate this quickly into this one-man show.
Well, a lot of the characters that are in this are they're all based on real people, and that's kind of where I kind of pull them from. And in my head, these characters are cartoon versions of real life people. So they're kind of like blown out and exploded, and I see them kind of like with like big giant Google eyes and just like just very, very, very too much. And that's kind of how I always see characters. And like even when I was taking class of the Groundlings and they were like forcing us to make a lot of characters at once, that's also how I kind of saw them. They were just like, oh, see these people on the street, and I'd see these people on the street and be like, but what if they looked like this cartoon character? And that's kind of just where my brain goes. So like that, especially that character Stacy, that I just see, for some reason I just see her as this like overdrawn, just like, that's why the voice of Stacy is just like so ridiculous and over the top, because I think that just kind of, those are the spaces where my brain goes kind of.
Well, and it's also, it helps when we are doing a show on anger, and it's like, what makes you angry about these people? And then that's really what you hook into. You're like, Stacey's always talking about how much better her life is in New York. And she has a bullshit garbage life that she's completely unaware of. But in her mind, she's living this Carrie Bradshaw life. And we don't like anyone that acts like that. And it's not, or like the bartender is like holier than thou and acting really like completely unsympathetic.
I know that bartender. I've dated that bartender. I know that bartender, right? How he wakes up and I know everything about him from those few little lines of that bartender. I knew exactly who this person was.
And he's known a lot of bartenders.
How dare you, sir?
That was interesting. That bartender character was something that I feel like every gay man that's seen the show like recognizes that, and a lot of straight people are like, oh, him. They don't see the depth of that. We all, I'm like, if you've been to a gay bar, you've dealt with that bitch. If you've been like, whether they're behind the bar or at the table, like, and it's their night off, we know that energy of just that. I don't have time for you. Who are you? You're kind of trash. I'm important. I hold your liquor, so be nice to me, even though I'm garbage. It's like that person that you know really all too well. So that was fun when writing characters. You're like, oh, what makes us? And then it would be like, oh, what makes them even worse? Like if they say this, so that was the fun part of like finding them.
Yeah. And that really did that really Drew and I were working on Bright Colors, right? Yeah, it was Bright Colors, and that bartender does exist. He was at the 9th Avenue Saloon, R.I.P. And he actually said to me after he lost my fucking credit card, he said, as a way to like make up for it, I'll suck your dick. That's what he said. That was a real fucking thing that happened to me.
The minute you said it, I'm like, God, that sounds fantastical and hilarious. It also sounds very real because, yes.
No one
very real.
That. Straight people watch that and they go, that's a little much. You're like, honey.
No. That's a real thing and then he wouldn't, and he kept going. That's why this character is like, no, I'm really going to suck your dick, because he kept saying it to me. And my friend Harold, who I love so much, is standing there just looking at this happening going, what the fuck? And when Harold watched the show, he texted me, he's like, I completely forgot about that bitch, but I was immediately brought there when you said that. Because I was like, yeah. And I think that's kind of sadly what we don't get to talk about in the show or like after the show, because we don't get to talk to anyone after they've seen it, is that a lot of those stories are real. We didn't fabricate a lot of those stories.
Well, and that story too, like the bartender, his way to make up is like, well, obviously you're going to just love a blowjob from me because I'm so beautiful. And that's what you put value in, because that's what it really means. It's not just somebody's sassy attitude. It's like, how do these people value themselves?
Speaking of dick, Tom, you do say that you're a dick clairvoyant, a dick whisperer.
Oh,
and you have dick
Michael, this is a classy
ESP.
show. I wasn't going to bring
And my
that
mom,
up.
my mom is watching right now, so sorry, Mom.
So's my mom.
So what does my dick look like?
Oh my God.
He's very good.
Don't answer that. Don't answer that.
He'll tell you exactly. He knows.
Drew has seen me do it a few times, and then when I was a few of my friends who know that I have this talent, they have forced me to, like, I have one friend who she will text me and she'll be like, tell me what his dick looks like, because she's going on dates with him, and I will get it right.
Oh.
It's a gift from Catholic high school. Am I right?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Because I don't know what it is, but like I don't, and a lot of the times I am wrong. And also like especially if I'm really put on the spot and everyone's like staring at me, like, figure it out.
Plus you don't want to embarrass somebody too, because you're like,
no, I don't.
Oh.
No. And I'll usually kind of ask a few questions to kind of get into the right space of like, is this where it's going? And I'll like check in with you if I'm on the right path. And if I'm on the right path, then I know that I know the rest of that.
He's a Miss Cleo of dick. I love it.
Yes. So like, I think that's what actually it's going to be my talk show. I'm just going to invite men on the talk show, and I'm going to be like, so I'm going to guess your dick. If I'm right, I get to see it. If I'm not right, I get to see it.
It's going to kill Drew Barrymore's ratings.
No money exchange. Just I get to see it.
Right? Just get to see it.
Oh my God, Michael.
That's all I need.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry.
That's so frustrating. Just seeing it. That's it.
You have to, if you do that show, you have to get Dionne Warwick on there. I mean, she's
100%.
If you've read her Twitter lately,
what does hers look like? Is that what you're saying?
No, but
Dionne Warwick's dick is huge and long. Okay.
Because she don't care. Honey Badger don't care. Okay. I want to kind of build in the theme of making friends with a hot topic. Do you guys mind talking about a hot topic?
Sure.
A theme in making friends that I responded to was the moment where you acknowledged how messed up and damaged people are in your life, but you still love them. They are part of your life. They are your family. I want to hear what your take on cancel culture is in the LGBT community in relation to COVID. An Instagram account that we've all been hearing about, Gays Over COVID, has exploded, and its purpose is to bring awareness to the members of the gay community, putting everyone else at risk by partying, traveling, etc., often exposing members, tagging them, tagging their jobs of the gay community in the medical field, political and celebrity figures, and even people that got money from COVID during GoFundMe. There's one part of the community loving it because it's calling people out on their actions. There's also another part of the community against it, saying it promotes cancel culture and causes a divide within our LGBT community. To be honest, I have quote-unquote influencer friends that I'm extremely upset with about their participation in events that are going on. I haven't defriended them. My finger, it was like, I could forward this in 2 seconds to this Instagram account and, their job would know. But I'm also hesitant of working like on future projects with. In 2 years, we're not going to remember their activity at Puerto Vallarta. We're not going to remember any of this. These people are harmful to us right now. But in the theme of making friends, when you state that there are people in our lives that are harmful to us, but they're still family and we still love them, I want both of you to kind of speak on this hot topic, if you don't mind.
Wow.
Okay, I will.
And be honest. Be as honest as you want.
Yes. Okay. I definitely look down on that behavior about getting together right now, partying, going to Puerto Vallarta. I think it's incredibly irresponsible. Also, as gay people, especially gay men in particular, we had another pandemic in the 80s and 90s that is still happening. So how dare you? And just flagrantly disrespecting the 300,000 people who have died, and it's just stupid and ridiculous. On the other hand, I'm very glad that you did not turn anybody over to that Instagram account.
It was
that Instagram
close,
account.
Drew. I'm just gonna be
Please don't.
honest with
If you
you.
want my opinion, please don't. I have on good authority, and I won't say this, but I did hear today a friend who suspects he knows who's behind the account. And if it's that person, Tom, we haven't talked about this. If it's that person, this is someone who's all about tearing down our community. And when we fight amongst ourselves, don't give it any energy. Like I can look at that behavior and go, that's awful. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to condone. If someone says, should I have gone to Puerto Vallarta? I would say no. I think that was really bad that you did that. To put people on blast, to tag them is, I think, incredibly crossing a line. I think that it is, when you do that, the other side just looks at us and laughs. And we're fighting amongst ourselves. At what point do we start, it's like we're tearing people down because of our tweets, our opinion. And it's like, without really understanding nuance and understanding intent. And it gets really dicey if we start to do that. And it's just like, what are you proving? What do you get out of that? Of like tearing someone else down? And don't we want more gay success stories? Don't we want more,
Here's something, though, because I love this debate, and I think we're so afraid to be politically correct. We don't want to offend anybody, especially if we're in, the light in the entertainment industry. We're so afraid because a tweet will come back and whatever. I have a mom who's going through chemo, and so, she's medically at risk, right? So it means a little bit more. So when I hear of medical people that are in the field, whether as a nurse, whether as a long-term care person, when I see that they're partying I think that they should not be able to return to their job
because
and work.
What if it was me? We're sitting here, I mean, we're feet apart and we know each other and we trust each other, right? And I know Mama Rose, but what if I was down in Puerto Vallarta, right? Wouldn't you want to know?
Well, bitch, I make you send me a COVID test when you text
but
me.
I think it would be important that he knows that now I'm going to be 4 feet away from him when he has to go home to a mother who's in chemo. It's 12 feet.
But I also understand.
Listen,
yeah.
Absolutely. I also just don't always know, when are those pictures taken and when, I wonder, sometimes it's absolutely. I mean, I feel like, yes, when in this arena, it's like having a politician who votes against gay rights, getting dragged out of the closet versus an actor. I think it's a very different conversation because, yes, you are directly affecting, if you're a healthcare worker, how fucking dare you do this? I just am not a fan of jumping on a Crucible level bandwagon of saying,
It has become a witch hunt. And even to the point where I kind of jump, my friend posted a throwback from New Year's Eve 2 years ago, but he didn't preamble it by saying this is a throwback. And I thought, he celebrated New Year's Eve at his own house with 20 guys. Oh my God. I was ready to friend him, whatever. And then I realized, I was like, oh, wait a minute. That picture
is 5 years ago.
Right.
I think that it's really, I'm with Drew on a lot of this. I don't understand why. Listen, everyone is an adult, and in America, we all have the opportunity to make our own decisions, which is something that we're noticing during this pandemic. Doesn't really fucking work.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
It's why we're in the shit that we're in.
It's why we're in the shit that we're in because we have too many fucking choices, right? The problem is when you put those choices on display, when you know after 9 or 10 months that those choices are wrong, and you still are like, nah, I'm gonna post this shit.
Yeah, who does that?
That's
an idiot.
Go ahead and go away and do whatever the fuck you want to do that makes you happy. That's none of my goddamn business. It becomes our business when you put it in a public forum.
Absolutely.
Go private. Do what you want to do. But I Drew is right though. We also have to be careful about tearing each other down because that's the reason why we're not advancing farther than we need to in media and in jobs and in other spaces when the straight community looks at us and they're like, oh, they're just catty. They're just bitchy to each other. Look at that bitchy queen. No, we don't need that. We don't need more energy to be like, look at these bitchy queens, et cetera, et cetera. I just don't understand the ineptitude though of people knowing what's wrong and still being like, nah, I'm going to let everyone know I'm doing this.
Because
that's my biggest gripe.
Because it hasn't affected them personally. And again, I want to bring this back to making friends. This is exactly what you talk about in the show is these people infuriate us. We are angry. but at the end of the day, we have to sit at the same table as them. We have to live with them, and it's like,
Yes.
take a breath
And the
and
person
let's dance.
That's behind this gaze over COVID. It also, that's coloring my opinion hardcore. Let me be honest.
See, I have
because,
no clue who
this
this
is
person
someone
is.
who will do anything he can to get famous on any level.
Oh.
Any. And it's like, that's also my issue. I'm like, you're kind of secretly jealous of anyone who looks a certain way or has something that you maybe wish that you had. So that's also, I think, part of why I'm in the states that I'm in. But
Yeah.
anyway.
I mean, when I was looking at the account the other, like 2 or 3 days ago, I had my finger over the follow button, and then I decided, no, I'm not going to do this, because you're right, Alexander. Like, in 2 years, this is not going to matter, this account. The fact that this existed, it's really just a flame that's burning very brightly right now, because we have nothing else to talk about. The election is coming to a close. We're getting a new president. The holidays are over. We're all sitting in our home for another 6 months. Like, we need something to fight about. And I think that this is something, Drew and I have been talking about this for the past few weeks, about certain things in media. Like, there's a level of tearing something down in media that we don't need to be doing publicly. To our friends, to like on text message, on blast, bitch as much as you fucking want. But like, is it necessary to tear people down at this time so deeply? Like, that's the question I think we should just be asking ourselves.
But in 2 years, are we also going to remember our neighbors who voted for Trump?
Well, now, I don't know. That's a good question, because I don't know.
I mean,
because
it's kind of...
hopefully he'll be completely out of the zeitgeist, and, you know, he'll be in his own world, and he won't have the effect on the world that he does right now. But like, in 2 years, if I find out that you voted for Trump, I'm going to look at you a different way. But I don't know. I don't have the answer.
Well, no, it's such like a dark tunnel that we go under. In the 6 months of the election, if somebody voted for Trump, I was like, oh, bless their heart, right? In the last month of the election, if somebody said I'm voting for Trump, they were defriended, because I just couldn't. I could not fathom having them in my life, and there's no conversation that's going to change their mind or my mind. And so to me, this is kind of like the same kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's also about like your personal life versus your online life. Like, you have
That's also a very good point.
You have your opinions about people that you can have, and then online, you're like, that's my thing about like anybody who's a Trump supporter online and they come on my wall and start, I delete the comment and I block them, not because I can't handle it. I'm just like, it's not worth getting into a conversation with you, and I don't want to fight on my wall. So I'm just like, no, go away. Have your own walls. Have your own opinion. Create your own social media reality. But I see it, for me, a difference between like me as a person. I don't want a friend who voted for Trump. But it's like, do I go online and drag and like post people's names to them?
It's such a weird time for us, and so I'm very thankful for Making Friends, which you can stream on iamatheater.com, by the way, extended to January 18th. Critics love it. So we're going to kind of end on a high note. We're going to play a little rapid fire. Who wants to go first?
Tom, you go first.
All right, I'll go first. Go ahead. Go
Tom,
for it. I'm ready.
What would the sequel to Making Friends be titled?
Ooh.
Making dishes. Because I would just cook on stage and I'd tell you some stories about me cooking all the time. Yeah, so making dishes.
Literal dishes.
Well, you know, I would have been all about that.
But also pottery.
There'll be like a ghost, Patrick Swayze kind of scene happening. And I would have been all about that until I heard about all this like healthy cooking you're doing. And I'm like, next.
I can do the other two.
Okay, good. Movie musical parody you would want to star in next.
Oh, musical parody I want to star in next. I've always wanted to do the Cutting Edge parody, because I think the Cutting Edge is so ridiculous and campy.
Fun.
I mean, you wouldn't have to do much.
I would want to play the bitch.
Yeah.
I would shave my face. I'd put on a wig. I'd play what's her name, who I think is just so wonderful. And in that movie, she's just so much. She's the muchicist. And I want to see it. I want to see, because like also that Panchango dance. And the fact that he's like, I mean, it's one of my favorite movies. It's so ridiculous. The Cutting Edge. That's the answer to that.
All right. Tom DeTrinis, worst audition.
Oh, the worst audition I've ever had was a commercial audition for a Super Bowl commercial where this this gross director, he was so terrible, and he was
I'm right here.
oh, listen, it was another time we weren't as close. And he's sitting on the couch, and it was the callback, and I had an apple that I had to eat in the commercial, and I started eating the apple, and he started screaming, "Faster! Faster! Faster!" I'm just eating the apple, and I don't know what's happening, and I'm freaking out. And similarly, the one that's equal to that is I show up to a these are all commercial auditions. Show up to a commercial audition.
I can't anymore. I can't do it.
I'm about to quit. Show up to a commercial audition. It's a female director. She's wearing tight jeans and a blazer and a white shirt. So already power lesbian. And
I'm
she's
thinking, Ozark, Janet McTeer in Ozark.
100%. She's standing in the room. We all walk in. There's silence. And she's pacing back and forth in front of us. And she goes, "So, I worked on a movie once that you might have heard of." And we were like, "I don't know." She's like, "Yeah, I was the DP of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind." And she sucked her own dick right in front of us for a good 5 minutes before we got to audition.
Okay, self-sucking note. Next, whoa, what is a habit that Drew has that gets on your nerves?
Oh.
She's got to get new internet. She just has to get new internet.
You still have dial-up, Drew?
I'm still on dial-up. I have a dot matrix printer.
I thought I heard that sound.
I discovered wingdings, the font.
Do you organize your floppy disks?
Oh my God, dot matrix! I'm dying. Yeah, I'm probably gonna buy it for her birthday. Is what I'm gonna do.
Okay, what is a musical role you would never be cast in that you would kill to do? And it could be anything, but you sing this show tune around the house, it's something that is just so you, but nobody will ever cast you, male or female.
No, listen, this might be offensive, but and I don't have the voice for it, I don't have anything for it, but I just love the catharsis of Effie in Dreamgirls.
Oh yeah.
I have no place in that show in the world. What'd you say?
I knew you were gonna say that, and I don't think we've even had that conversation.
Wow. Well, I mean, you guys know each other pretty well at this point.
I just that character just is so. It's one of my favorite characters on the stage because she's just so fucking intense, and I just she's also so angry. Yeah. I think that's why I love it so much. She's so fucking angry
for a good reason.
I feel like I could, for a great reason, and I feel like I could do it really well. But I would never, ever, 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 ever.
Well, go to my hometown in North Carolina and enter a pageant.
Is that where that viral video comes from?
And you'd be around a lot of other white girls doing that. I'm telling you, I'm not going.
There's that viral video on YouTube, and it's this white pageant contestant, and she's like, "Oh God, it's so bad. It's so bad." Yeah.
So many girls have just been like, "Yeah, that'll be my song." I get it.
Tom DeTrinis, tell everybody where you want them to find you and follow you. And you're single, by the way.
Oh, I'm not single, actually.
Wait, what?
No, I don't. Oh, I'm very private about my personal life. I'm very
unless it's a one-man show.
And this is it. Yeah, I'm very private in my personal life, so I don't.
Good for you,
I don't always post pictures of Joseph, but I've been dating Joseph for about 9 years. I've had the same boyfriend, and we live together.
Go, Joseph.
He's not on social media at all. And so you can't, you might find one picture of him somewhere on someone else's page, but you will not find him. He doesn't like it. So he's not into it.
Hey, I think when you're in entertainment, I think that's the key to a long lasting relationship is,
a little bit of privacy.
Yep.
But you can find me at DeTrinis on Instagram. I'm really active there. I'm not as active on Twitter, but my Twitter is @TDT. And, I think that's where you can find me. And go to iamatheater.com to buy tickets for the show. It's only $15, and you get to stream it, and talkbacks come with the show, and it's a grand old time.
And we have to say, Michael Yuri, who's actually coming on the show in the next few weeks, did one of the Q&As. Yeah.
Yes. That genius, little brilliant man.
Ugh.
Love him.
God, we're jealous of him for so many reasons.
Nightmare, horrible person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Ooh.
Good luck, y'all.
Listen, Michael Yuri is actually the one who runs Gays Over COVID. There it is. I dropped it.
He doesn't have time, girl. I saw him in Buyer and Seller, and I was in the front row because I got some weird last-minute ticket. It was at the L.A. The theater group. Which theater was it at?
Mark Taper.
Mark Taper. I was front row. I'm like, oh, God, nobody wants a front row ticket, really, because it's like there. And it's like, oh, God, I'm going to know all of his habits and all that. It was mesmerizing.
Astounding. I know.
Astounding.
Yeah. Okay, Drew, are you ready?
Sure.
You can go back in time and originate any role, male or female, in a TV sitcom. Which one is it?
Oh, my God. That's so good. I would, oh, God. There's so many. I mean, in a sitcom. Okay.
Yeah, just a sitcom.
Mm-hmm. I might say Charlene in Designing Women.
So this is a known fact: is you watch Designing Women all the time.
I do watch it a lot. I do watch it. I grew up watching a lot. My mom was an interior designer.
I was going to say, and you have like a furniture maker, right? Yeah. Yeah, your mom was like a furniture maker, interior designer.
Interior designer, yeah. And so it was just our world. It was so when it was on, it was like so and southern, like a sitcom in the South. I love all of them, but Jean Smart's really my favorite, and I always loved that character because she was really deceptively smart. She came off like the airhead, but she was really sharp and she was good at accounting. That was
and Drew. And Drew, we were talking about comedy and drama. Jean Smart is one of the best dramatic actresses
100%
around. She is
100%.
so good. Okay, Drew, worst or funniest onstage moments, and it could be from high school or college. It's
I had a cat attack me on stage.
What?
Cats are from the devil.
Was the cat in the show?
Earlier, I was in the Daria Van Frank. And I had a cat in that show.
Yes, of course.
And stupidly, when all my friends were coming, I decided to bring the cat out for curtain call. Because I'm 16 and I'm that little homo who's like, I'm gonna bring the cat out.
Let's get into all the pictures. Yeah.
Sure.
And my friend screamed when I came out, and that cat
Oh my God.
No.
it dug its way. I mean, it dug. I remember the feeling of its claws going
Oh
in
God.
my back
Yeah, that's a visceral
slipping
feeling.
out of my back. I was soaked in blood.
Oh,
And we couldn't find the cat for like 2 days.
At the next performance, you're like, we're in the attic.
We were in the, yeah, it was worse than World War II. Then I was, I broke my arm on stage in
Jesus.
London. The last time I did Shakespeare, before I even got a word out in my we had one performance, and before I said a single line, I had an accident and I broke my arm.
Oh my God.
So I've had a lot of calamities.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Was it the Scottish play?
It's like instead of Jojo Rabbit, it's Jojo Cat. Drew, you get to interview Chloe and ask her one question. You only get 5 minutes. So you can ask her one question. What is it?
Why did you never contact me about making a video with me? Because I've
She
said
knows
a million
about
times.
you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
100%.
If you had made a video with me, I promise I would have stopped. I'm just genuinely curious why she never did, because she kept saying in interviews that she was going to reach out to me, and I'm like, let's do it. Then that'll be it. What do you go from there? But I don't know.
Okay. Drew, what would the name of your biography be up to this point?
I've always said that my biography would be The Accidental Drag Queen. Because I never intended, I just sort of landed in it, and I never really considered myself a drag queen. So
it's funny. Because for both of you gentlemen, I have pages and pages of notes, and one of them is about drag, because what you do is not drag. It's your acting, which is a whole, now we have an idea of what drag is from RuPaul, and it's like drag came from such a different place. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Drew, where can people find you and follow you?
You can find me on Twitter at Drew Droege and Instagram at Drew_Droege.
You guys together, you are Romy and Michelle, Connie and Carla. You guys are Tim Burton and Johnny Depp.
Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch.
It was such a pleasure to speak to you guys after being fans of both of you for so long, and then being able to kind of talk about this project, Making Friends, on IamAtheater.com, which you can stream, you can watch in the comfort of your home. And I really think it's made for watching at home, kind of by yourself, put your phone away, and kind of listen to what's happening. Thank you guys so much for sharing theater during this crazy time.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you guys. It was a pleasure.
Ditto. Thanks.
Bye, guys. All right, Michael.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, Michael, you have
Yes.
to do rapid fire.
Wait. Let me sip my rosé.
Rosé is like 0.0000.
Exactly.
Okay, most embarrassing binge watch during COVID.
Most embarrassing binge watch during COVID. Oh, Top Model. Seasons I've seen 100
that
times.
still on?
No, but I just rewatch it anyway.
Oh, okay. Worst date.
Worst date. Wow. I haven't had one in so long. Worst date.
Was it Jesus of Nazareth?
Oh, yes. Took a boy out to dinner. This is several years ago. Took him out to dinner, and I don't know what went wrong, but
It's called rapid fire.
You know what? They got time. I got a second.
Well,
Anyway,
actually,
became uncomfortable because the dinner was so expensive, even though I was buying it, and voiced the fact that, why did you take me there? Blah blah blah. So yeah.
I can kind of feel that. It just makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Most overrated Oscar-nominated best film. Because we know you get, in fact...
Crash.
Oh, yes, that's mine too.
Yeah.
Michael gets all the screeners ahead of time and still won't let me watch them. He's like, they're coded.
You know what? I've destroyed them all, as SAG has me do.
Yes. Like so many relationships. What is your worst habit you think that you have while on stage? We all know as actors what our worst habit is. What is yours?
I have facial tics.
Really?
Well, yeah. I found myself, and I can see it more on camera, and I can control it more now. But sort of licking of the lips, not forgetting that. People can see this.
Okay, most overrated actor.
Stop. Me.
No, come on.
Overrated in terms of, I don't.
Mine is Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks? You think he's overrated?
Yep.
Rapid
fire. Kurt has to go home.
I can't even. I don't know. The dude, where's my car guy?
Ashton Kutcher?
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought of him as an actor.
Exactly. So overrated.
All right. Where can people find you and follow you?
Michael Vega on Facebook. Instagram is Michael Vega Act. And same thing on Twitter, although I don't really go there. But Instagram's good.
All right. As usual, we just literally can talk and talk and talk. And that is all, folks. It's a grab bag of fun every weekend on The Rocks. A big thank you to our fabulous guests, my engineer, Kurt, our intern, Alexis Mendez, our researcher, Mama Rose, woo-woo, and my associate producer and co-host for today, Michael Vega.
Hi.
And above all, you, our fabulous audience, stay happy, stay healthy, stay sexy.
My fan.
This has been another episode of On the Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram at On the Rocks On Air. Find everything On the Rocks for free at OnTheRocksRadioshow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and share. Until next week, stay fabulous.